you will always have to be the hero. You will always be the bottleneck. And the business is only going to grow to what the lid is that you've created.
Which is scarier, missing an opportunity or making a mistake?
Oof. The ones that lean into AI and leverage what's going on in the marketplace right now, I think are going to grow immensely. The ones that are avoiding it are going to get gobbled up by the ones that are.
Welcome back to Life by the Horns. All bull, no bullshit. What's up, Dustin? You feeling all right today, man?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, man. I'm excited about today because, last week we talked a lot about that owner who's kind of hungry for growth and chasing revenue and all that good stuff, but for the wrong reasons. But today we're going to kind of shift gears and talk about, a lot of owners fall into the other two camps, right? So there's some are what I would call the perfectionist owner. They say they want to grow, but everything has to be perfect before they're ready to take it to that next level. And then you have the other guy that's more like the comfortable owner. He says, hey, we're fine. We've got customers. The team's good. We're good where we are. We don't want the headache that comes with more growth. So on the surface, both of them feel safe. But what we want to unpack today is what those owners may not see. Some of the hidden risks of just staying where you are and not elevating, and why the ground under you might not be as solid as you think. So let's lock in. So if we peeked into the day in the life of a perfectionist owner versus the comfortable owner, what do you think we would actually see? How do those two mindsets kind of show up in everyday business?
A day in the life of the perfectionist owner. He or she is probably hypervigilant, always trying to find what's wrong, because it gives them something to fix, which is what a lot of business owners are good at. But, and I mean, I can speak for myself. I mean, that hypervigilance comes from, past bullshit and traumas in your life. And, you use it as a survival mechanism, but you realize along the way that one thing that helped you survive, although it's a good tool for business, at some capacity, it continues to keep you in kind of this fight or flight state, where you're always trying to fix what you perceive as broken because you're afraid you're going to lose it. And so, I mean, that's more the perfectionism side. And I mean, perfectionism is a lie as well. So I think it's a nice word that some throw around just because it makes us feel comfortable in the fact that because we haven't done things as fast as we want to, it gives us an excuse to fall back on because it wasn't good enough yet. But most businesses that really, put their foot on the gas, so to speak, and some in a reckless manner, but in large part, most of them that really grow, it's because they make perfectionism sit in the back seat, if not in the car at all. And they just focus on growth because no matter how great you think the business is or how perfect it is, growth is going to expose those opportunities and where things are weak. And you'll never have something perfect enough, at the ground or at any level in business. So at the next level, whether it be 2, 5, or 10x, that you're going to be okay there. So in large part, that part's just a lie. What was the second part though? So you said
more the comfortable owner, the guy that's like, yeah, we're fine. We're good. We don't want the headache that comes with the next level and growth. How does that typically show up in everyday business?
That's I think the majority of businesses. Yeah. No, they feel like they're good. They're good enough with respect that, money's coming in, they can feed their family. And that feels good. And I think a lot of people enjoy that season because, whether you're growing or whether you're drowning, it's painful. And a lot of us are just trying to avoid pain. So as long as we're showing up every day, and customers are coming in and payroll's covered and things look okay down the road, a lot of people enjoy that season because it doesn't create a high level of stress that, again, that regression or progression creates. And I think that's okay in seasons, but I don't think either of those things are something that'll last as far as a long-term strategy in business.
So when an owner is stuck in either of those places, what's usually already slipping inside the business that they might not be noticing yet?
Everything. Well, I mean, it's a lot of things. So one of them, I think when you look at the perfectionism side, the business owner is always looking at, and I fall victim to this all the time too. It's, how can I continue to elevate myself? So they're on this constant roller coaster, which is acquiring of information. We want all the information and all the things so that we can make really good decisions, but the information can create that analysis paralysis where we don't actually do anything. So information is not necessarily the key. Good information and then strategy and action is what moves the needle. On the complacency side, though, the scary thing there is, and one of the things I was really excited to talk about here, because a lot of businesses do this, they start to complain that because with some respect, they're a perfectionist, so they need to have their hands on everything. So they don't ultimately trust a team to grow. So they sit in kind of this gray area of they think they're just okay. They're not going forward. They're not going backwards. They're just okay. Now, the reality is you're going backwards. And if you have a semblance of a team, they're not growing. And people that are really good at their craft and really want to accelerate their careers and do something with their life is, which is majority of who we would like to, bring into our organizations. At least I hope so. If you're not attracting that because you're not doing it, what you end up doing is you have this culture of complacency because it lives within you as the business owner. And generally what you see is, people all of a sudden aren't showing up, consistently on time. They're leaving early. They're sick more often. They're just not as bought in, which has huge negative repercussions, in all the facets of business. But it shows up in big ways. And I think a lot of people are just okay with it. And then you start to hear the excuses of, well, it's just really hard to find good people. No, it's because you don't attract them. Oh, it's really hard to create good culture. Right. Because it starts with you. And so you see all those kinds of things creep in, and inevitably what happens is it's just a quick burn. It could be a slow burn, to business disaster or death, because if the business isn't growing, obviously culture is not going to be super great. You don't have a ton of people motivated to show up. And if your people are showing up, and maybe they're okay with the status quo. The downside is, though, is as a business owner, the second you want to put your foot on the gas and grow, that team that was super complacent for years, they don't want to grow. They're good. Now all of a sudden you've asked more of them. So they should either A, get paid more because now you want to do something, or B, they don't want to be there, or they can't survive, what that journey looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting too with that business owner. It's easy to see the complacency in everybody else, but it's hard to see that it started with you, right? It's like you're in your own way. So while these people are stuck, the business owners are stuck, what's happening typically outside the business, like with the market, competitors, and with customers? What are they typically saying?
They're not paying attention. No, I mean, if you're complacent or you're sitting this, vessel of perfectionism, on the perfectionism side, you're super hyper focused on yourself, not so much everything else that's going on around you. And if you are, you're leveraging what's going on around you to be a reason as to why it can't grow. If you're super complacent, clearly you're not looking at everything else and everyone that's going on around you. So, and there's always a lot of volatility and change inside of marketplaces. I mean, it's actually a joke on our own website about Blockbuster, per se. At one point in time, Blockbuster had the opportunity to acquire Netflix for a steal, and they waited. And then all of a sudden, Blockbuster's customers were Netflix because there was an evolution that Blockbuster just couldn't get behind. The same thing happens inside of business consistently. And that's why you see a lot of times in spaces, like in the roofing industry, which is hyper competitive. There's a lot of volatility in salespeople in the roofing space. Why? Because they don't want to sit inside of an organization that has the potential of paying them well when there's another one down the road that can, because they're active and trying to grow the business. So, it's something that business owners have to be mindful of, and it's just beyond them. It's very important for their team. It's very important for their customers and everybody, because if the business isn't evolving and it starts with the leader, everything else starts to go backwards.
Yeah. And dive a little bit deeper into, so if you're in one of those categories, you're either a perfectionist or you're comfortable, what does it typically do to you personally? And I know you can speak more to the perfectionist side, but your energy, your confidence, even your sense of identity.
So a lot of us that operate in perfectionism, we live in this kind of hero state that, if our hands are involved, if we're doing the thing, we know we can save the day and we know we can fix it. There's some benefit from that, especially in high stakes situations. There's a lot of downsides though to it as well, because what ends up happening is if you're the one that always has to save the day, if you're the one that always has to fix things, you're completely unempowering your team to make decisions on your behalf and do, the right thing. And by doing that, we teach, our team this kind of culture of, wait for mom or dad to show up and fix the thing, or the superhero in the business. They're always looking for your buy-in. They're always looking for you to say, yes, this was a good job, so on and so forth. And a lot of that perfectionism, and most of us, I mentioned before, comes from a trauma pattern early on in life. A lot of times, I mean, I know for me personally, like when I wanted to go do stuff with my friends growing up, if, the house was perfect, all my chores were done, the dogs were taken care of, everything, if all the boxes were checked off, and I was doing well in school, then I got that, stamp of approval, I could go do the thing. So for me, again, it was about making sure I left everything perfect so I could go do what I enjoyed. But I was seeking somebody else's approval. And a lot of us don't actually love that. But then we take that same skill from childhood or early on in adulthood, and then we translate that into business and we start treating our people the same way. We're looking for perfectionism through them. And when we don't see it, we save the day and we pat ourselves on the back and we're like, God, if it wasn't for me, this business just couldn't survive. And it's like, well, you're not fucking scalable. Like we used to joke years ago, it was I hate to say it, but it was the school bus test. Like if you get hit by a bus, then what? And then so SOPs became important and all these other things because not one thing can live and die by any one person, including the founder of the founders. Because it's not scalable. If you want to go on vacation for a month, I mean, you even said this to me last year, like, man, I can't wait to get to the place where, you can go on vacation for a month. I've never done that in my life, first of all. But second of all, it was foreign, just the thought of that. But a lot of that came from this mindset of scarcity and perfectionism. If I'm gone, something's going to go wrong. Well, guess what? If I'm here, shit still goes wrong. So at the end of the day, like who cares? But I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Talk about that transition though, like the transition between being the hero, like that shows up and saves the day, and then having to kind of step back and let the team maybe make some mistakes. Like, what does that feel like? And then
it's rough at first because you see things that they don't. I got to be on the receiving end of this many a times, and I was thankful for the lessons. I'd get super excited about a product or something that I thought was going to be really great for the company. I would get ownership's buy-in. I would go and do it. They knew it wasn't going to work, but they knew as long as it didn't jeopardize safety, reputation, something like that, at least give the guy the shot, and I'd get to the end of the thing and I'd be super excited. And then like, well, we didn't get the fruits from this that we thought. And then I would go and share, what the aftermath was and, how much did this cost us? Well, this much. And what do we get from it? Well, not a lot. And so what did you learn? Well, I learned that, this is probably not a great idea to utilize resources moving forward. But you have to go through those moments and you have to learn. And I think for the business owner, or even high level manager, you have to watch your people go through this and not to have I told you so moments, because that's the worst. Really, it's to understand their thought process and what they're trying to achieve, which ultimately should be for the betterment, of the company, for the individuals inside of it, the people they serve, all that stuff. But that's the end goal. And if they have a good plan and it's not great, ask questions that help lead them to the promised land. And then when they finally have what, to you seems like a great plan based off of the questions that you've asked, it's now their idea. They own it. They're more bought in. The inverse of that is when you're the hero and you go in and you're like, man, this is a clusterfuck. Let me fix everything. You then come in and tell the team, I fixed the thing and here's all the stuff I did. They're grateful that it's better. But in some capacity, the right people are also like, man, why didn't I think of that? Or why wasn't I a part of it? And I think that's something that's really important. And it ends up undermining your people too, especially if they're client facing. If you have to be the one that comes in and saves the day and retains the client, that's not ideal, because now all of a sudden you've actually taken leverage from that person and you've shown client over here that, hey, if you really need help, you come to me, but the person I've assigned you to is only good for this much. And I think it takes a lot away from people. So it does take time, to get, to where we want our people to go. But if we don't, take the training wheels off at some point or raise them up, like we do with our kids, if we don't do those things and let them actually try, you will always have to be the hero. You will always be the bottleneck. And the business is only going to grow to, what the lid is that you've created.
Yeah. So how do you think on the other side of things, like if you're this perfectionist leader, or even on the comfort side, how does it affect the team and how they operate over time? What's the biggest team impact that you see?
On the perfectionism side, and this is funny because if you're a perfectionist, you felt this and you're actually creating it at the same time and you didn't like either. So, when you're trying to be this perfectionist operator, a lot of your self-worth has come from others previously when you did a really, really good job. But when you act in that way and you expect that from your people, and it's okay to expect excellence, but perfection is a whole different thing. And when you expect that from your people and you only point out their flaws in what they did, and you don't lead, and we even talked about this earlier, but you don't lead with gratitude first, you will constantly have them showing up knowing that A, it's not going to be perfect. He or she is not going to love it. What ends up happening over time is they actually detract from the organization. And I remember I used to have a sign in my office, I got rid of it a long time ago, that basically said, if you don't have anything to add at the table, you will not have a seat. And I used to sit in these meetings, in our leadership meetings, and I would lead the whole thing, and I talked 95% of the time. And in the off chance I let the team have anything to say, for whatever reason, it wasn't good enough, and my way was better. And then finally one day, one of the team, I'm like, why don't you guys ever have ideas? Why don't you ever bring anything to this meeting? I might as well just be sending a fucking email. And one of the guys was like, yeah, you should, because you don't let anyone talk anyway. I'm like, oh. And also, anytime we bring up anything, you have 27 reasons as to why it won't work. So why the fuck do we bring anything up? We just wait for you to tell us what to do and we do it. Well, that's a shitty way to lead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally basically standing inside of an ivory tower and then, getting behind them when they start to do the work and hitting them with a whip and they're not doing a good job. And that's not, early on, that's what I thought leadership was. That's not what leadership is. But it ends up undermining your people. It makes them feel small. You may have somebody else on the team who's also a perfectionist and loves working all the time and everything. And for seasons, they may thrive in some capacity in that environment because that's what they're used to. The problem is that most people will not. And you don't want to have that as a culture, which is perfectionism at all cost. And oh, by the way, if it's not perfect, we're all going to let you know. And some of us say we use candor to get that message across. And in some part, maybe it is, but a lot of times it's just being an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. And then from the perspective of like, everything has to be going perfectly in order for me to grow, like for us to get to the next level, or we're just going to stay in this place because I don't feel comfortable growing. How do you feel like that mindset affects the team?
It doesn't work because you'll always be able to find something that's not working. And then all of a sudden the team's going to realize that there's always going to be something to fix. And because there's always something to fix, you're afraid to grow. And if you're afraid to grow, then they can't.
Right.
And they're way more likely to pivot and go somewhere else that isn't afraid of growth, that has issues inside of the business, because there's always going to be issues inside of the business. The best thing that you can do is get out of your own damn way to a capacity that makes sense and grow. And then let the growth expose the things that are really wrong. And then with more revenue and more resource, you can double down on fixing those things because now you have it. When you operate from a place of scarcity and you're already being super lean and you're trying to make everything perfect, if you don't have more clients coming in, you're not going to have more resource. Then you have to be hyper aware of churn and people leaving. So now you've got this double scarcity mindset thing going on. We can't lose anybody and we can't spend anymore. And inevitably, both things are going to happen. And now all of a sudden it gets even more stressful for the operator and the team because they see it on you. Hey, we need to get this, for a software subscription. That's $59. But yeah, we can't do that right now. Well, it's going to help us to, yeah, we can't do that right now. It's like, oh, okay, we can't spend $59. All right. I'm not asking for a fucking raise anytime soon. That's the reality of it. Instead of, let's come up. I mean, I had this with a conversation with a coach a couple of months ago, because we had an explosive month. It started to show some places where we needed to improve. So I said, let's just focus on improvements for a while. And I got out of growth mode and back into improvement and operations mode. And I'll never forget, my coach, he even said, and he was like, look, he's like, so this is some sort of trauma related thing that we need to figure out and you need to get through. But wouldn't it be better to bring 3 customers in and lose 2 than bring no customers in because you're not working on them and lose 1? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's still 1-to-1, but on the other side, you're continuing to fill your pipeline and bring in more people. And that matters at the end of the day. And so, yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah. So from the other side, so that's the perfectionist side. So for the guy that's comfortable, he's more afraid to grow, or afraid of what comes with growth. Do you feel like that affects the team in the same way?
Well, it's harder to get good talent to buy in. I mean, you can get a bunch of C players all day long to, join your business because they'll get a paycheck at the end of the day. C players don't take you to the next level though. If you want to get A players, you have to, or really good B players, you have to show that if you want to keep them for a long period of time, you have to show that the business is either at a place or going to a place of growth. They'll get behind that because they're more career oriented and long-term focused, than, just some Joe Schmo that's here to, get a paycheck every Friday. So it makes a huge difference in how they show up for work. And it makes a huge difference for how you show up for work, because if you're just showing up to maintain the status quo, that's not really fucking hard. And in large part, most of those, operators, they're basically, and I mean this respectfully, but they're solopreneurs that are self-employed, that have made a job for themselves, and they're really good at doing the job, but they're really fucking terrified of somebody else not doing it to their level, which I think is a fallacy. Now, there are people that will do it better than you at the end of the day if you put the time in, but at the same time, I think it's really important, and this is, paraphrasing from Dan Martell, I think it's so important when you can actually get other people up to speed, and it's better to have them do it at 85% your capacity and them doing the work than it being done at 100% capacity and you doing all the work. And I just think that's something that a lot of business owners just don't, because they haven't experienced it, because they haven't given it a chance or enough chances. They've hired one or two people. They did a terrible job training. Maybe they hired the wrong person. They just wanted to fill a body and put them in a seat. And then a couple of people just gave them a bad impression of what building a team could look like. And it starts with them, and painting the picture and the vision, and then obviously the training and the coaching, the accountability, the follow through, all that kind of stuff. But when any of those ingredients are missing, it's very easy for those people that are very conservative to get very calloused towards workforce and growth and all those kind of things. And then that's just that constant thing that you hear that, people these days suck. They don't work as hard as they used to. If only everyone cared about my business as much as me. No one fucking cares about it as much as you. No one. So you just have to remove yourself from that mindset. And I think the beauty when you start to grow though is it's beyond, it starts to become a thing that is beyond you. I think one of the things I love so much about growing businesses is the impact that we can make, not just on more customers, but on more people. To be a part of a good culture that really cares about the people that, they serve, whether it be internally or externally, and put them in something that is a good foundation of what like this growth incubator can look like inside of business. And I think that's why I get so excited about it. But for so many people, I think the fear also comes from just lack of experience, lack of good experience.
Yeah. And it's funny because in most businesses, if you're good at what you do, that you run into people that have had bad experiences with other
everything.
Industry, right?
Yeah.
So you're always fighting against this with other people. It's interesting how, even though we do that, it's our natural inclination to just assume that if we have a couple bad experiences, that's
what it is. Yeah.
So beyond the revenue though, like what's the greatest gift for you personally that you think growth has given you? And what can it give other owners out there?
Oh man. So it wasn't until earlier this year that somebody had shared with me, they were like, I think the reason that you love and care about this so much is business is like ministry to you. It gives you the ability to take the hard lessons that you've learned and then the good lessons that you've learned, from those things and share those gifts and that wisdom with other people and create a tribe and a culture of like-minded individuals that enjoy what they do, that love serving people and are grateful for it. And I think one of the things that I love so much is, as we have continued to enroll, whether it be customers because we care about their goals, right? Or people that are on our team when we enroll them to the team. To me, it's a really exciting thing when you find out what their personal goals are, and why this is a positive thing for them. And some of them it's career aspirations. Others it's buying their first home. Some it's moving out from their parents' house. Others it's, I met my husband and we're about to have a wedding. And, if I've got a good stable job, then we don't have to be so concerned about, having a family and doing all that, watching, some of these folks go on way cooler vacations that I get to go on. So in some aspect, it's vicariously living through them and the cool shit that they get to do. But no, it's watching other people that you care about grow and do things with their life. And one of my coaches even shared with me, he's like, man, I think it's so cool that you care so much about them hitting their goals. Why does that matter to you so much? And I'm like, because I was given that opportunity by someone who really believed in me. And it was one of the greatest gifts I was ever given. Now, did I do the work? 100%. But I'm a million times thankful for it. And I just think that more people need to work in organizations where the owner, the founders, the leadership really cares about them. Because when you really care, even when times are hard and even when they fuck up and make a mistake, you show up with grace, you show up and you're still grateful for them. You show up and you help them learn the lesson and understand and get better from it. And I think that's something that people will be forever grateful for, is to work inside of a place where there's actually like real leadership. That's not my former style, which was, the ivory tower and a whip.
So with that, like that transition, what happened? Like, was there a single moment that that you kind of hit that maybe was a breaking point for you, or was it like a slow kind of realizing that that's how you were leading initially?
I think that, like you hear, the everyone's got that friend that's been married like 3 or 4 times and, they blame everybody else, right? Like, oh, the other one. And it's like, finally you're like, bro, like, let's be honest. The common denominator here is you. You're the one that keeps creating this or attracting this type of relationship. And I think when I started looking back over the years, I've had some amazing managers that have worked with me, and sometimes I have left to go do other things. They have left to go do other things. And I was like, why is it that consistently as we level up, I'm consistently looking at leveling up the people, not necessarily the actual people here, but bringing in better people here instead of leveling up what actually exists. And there was a conversation one time, it was a funny conversation I had with my kids. And I think my stepson had said something along the lines like, and I know if I worked for you, though, you would have fired me by now. And he has worked for me before, and I'm pretty sure we fired him. But I was like, his kids or, his family, you don't fire your family. Like, you guys are always going to be here. And then I laughed. I'm like, my mom fired me, so I guess we can't use that as an example anymore. But I think what I noticed was that I consistently, as a leader, if I was unsatisfied with what I was seeing, I was constantly just re-upping the team and bringing more people in. And the vision always got people excited and the execution and stuff was there. But I realized that I wasn't spending enough time, I think, loving on our people and being 100% bought into them. And if I wasn't, then I knew what my natural reaction was, because I'm a very on-off type person. And my wife would be like, yep, you got a fucking target on their back. And I'm like, no, I don't. And she'd be like, they won't be here in a month. And sure enough, a month later, they wouldn't be here. And so it was some of those call outs and just introspective thinking that I was just like, you know what? It's not that the people were not great. It's that I wasn't great for them. I was inviting them on this journey, and a lot of the stuff that I knew, I just wasn't putting into practice. And so when they fell short, which was a shortcoming of my leadership, when they fell short, I was quick to write them off and just to find somebody better. And it doesn't work that way in relationships and in marriage, right? Like, that's the easier thing to do, is to just hand over the papers, sign some stuff, go different directions. I know there's a lot of anomalies and stuff in there, but, break up with the girlfriend, whatever it may be. And that's a lot of what I think society teaches us. And a lot of us as small business owners, it's like, oh, I'm not the problem. It's them. No. It is you. Yeah. You brought them on board. Maybe you didn't vet them well enough. Whatever it may be, at the end of the day, ultimately the ownership comes down to you. And I just realized that I needed to show up better for people. We've even had this conversation before. It's amazing all of the knowledge that we have between our 2 ears, and we just expect people to know it. Like, oh, I had a 1-hour conversation with them about this, they should just know. And it's like, no, you have 10 years of fucking knowledge about that subject matter in your brain. You can't express that in 1 hour. So I think a lot of it has just come down to giving grace and gratitude to people.
100%. So looking ahead, what do you think in this climate, with AI, with all that's going on, what do you think the next few years looks like for owners that lead into growth versus the ones who avoid it?
The ones that lean into AI and leverage what's going on in the marketplace right now, I think are going to grow immensely. The ones that are avoiding it are going to get gobbled up by the ones that are.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the reality. I mean, we're able to do things now that used to take us days that can take us 30 minutes. And it comes out exponentially better, especially if you know what you're doing, than it used to. I mean, I was watching on the way over today a good friend and colleague that is now doing short commercials for people using nothing but some before and after photos or videos from clients, B-roll, AI, captions, and a voiceover. And what used to take them a couple $1,000s in a day to two days worth of work is taking them an hour. And from a content perspective, that's a beautiful thing. And it hugely saves on resource and everything else. And that's just one example. I mean, there's so many things that we can do inside of business now at an accelerated manner if you're open to learning and leveraging the technology. And the technology is not an end-all be-all. I think the only thing it's really going to do for many, at least now, is if we know how to leverage it, accelerate what we're doing and doing it better. It's a great thought partner. It's not the thought leader. That's what we're still supposed to be. And we have to understand the nuances and hallucinations that are associated with AI and those kind of things and fact check and everything else. But what it allows us to do is accelerate, what took us in many times, days, weeks, and months down to a very, very short or finite period of time.
So if a business owner is listening right now, recognizes themselves in one of the two, maybe they're a perfectionist or a comfortable owner that's kind of just chill and doesn't want to deal with the headache, what's the first step you think that they should take, let's say this week, just to break out of it?
I think it's just having a deep, internal conversation, just trying to understand the why behind it. What makes you operate from this mode of perfectionism, or what makes you operate in this mode of consistent comfort? What is the good that comes from it? I like spreadsheets, a column of what are the good things that this does for me and what are the negative things that this does for me. And the reality is you don't have to tie yourself to any one of those two terms. A perfectionism, you're like, oh, I'm a perfectionist. That's a label for a lot of people. We don't have to live like that. Just because you've done that for a long period of time doesn't mean that's who you are indefinitely. So I think the big thing is just understanding the root of it first and foremost. And then it's trying to identify some baby steps. If you think that, this is not healthy for my business or healthy for me, how can we do some just incremental things on a daily basis that start building a little bit of momentum so we can stack proof that, hey, I don't need to be like this in order to grow this thing or to get my business to where I want it to go. I can be a different operator and just give it a fucking shot. And if it doesn't work the first time, that doesn't mean that you have to be a perfectionist or you have to, continue to be complacent or whatever it may be. I think, with anything, whether it be change in any direction, especially if you're trying to move forward and grow, there's going to be some pain and there's a lot that you're going to learn. But I think, and this is, ties into our conversation a little bit earlier, even when you're in this period where you're trying to learn and, quote unquote, get better, you're still going to fall and you're going to have failings. But I think if you're grateful for the lessons that you learn in that process and continue to push forward and truly take those lessons and drive it in, to the next chapter, you'll start to build momentum. You'll start to see growth, and it'll start to revolutionize who you are as a leader.
Awesome. Good stuff. So, Dustin, now we're going to wrap up with our quick rapid fire.
Oh, shit.
I actually liked how we did that last week. So let's do a rapid fire, just gut reactions, no overthinking. So, number one, growth or comfort?
Growth.
Which is scarier, missing an opportunity or making a mistake?
Ooh, they both suck. I don't think making mistakes are scary. I think it's missing the opportunity.
All right, cool. Perfection or excellence?
Excellence.
Yeah. One word test. Growth feels like blank.
Eating glass.
Okay, fair enough. I get to run this business or I have to run this business?
I get to.
Yeah. And if you had to rebuild tomorrow, what's the very first thing you'd focus on?
Ooh, one thing. AI.
Bet. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Good stuff. That's it. That's it for today. If you saw yourself in either one of these kind of perfectionist or comfort owners, just take the first step. Reflect on just how it's actually serving you. But I really appreciate you guys for joining, listening to the conversation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And we will see you next time on Life by the Horns. Peace.